Thank you for joining me at 1500ESPN.com. My name is Andrew Kramer. I just sat down with Coach Mike Zimmer yesterday for about a half hour at his Winter Park office and got a few updates to share with you. First, primarily about defensive end Brian Robison, who suffered a pectoral injury during a workout last week. And this is obviously a touchy subject for some Vikings fans, having lost Brandon Fusco and Phil Loadholt to pectoral injuries, torn pectorals, and were out for the season. That's a tough injury. That's a 6-month injury when it's a complete tear. That's something that really takes a long time just to even get back into the weight room. You saw Giants left tackle Will Beatty, I believe, get the same kind of injury just this week. I believe it was a torn pec. And so with Brian, though, that is not the worry. A week later, he's already back working out. Mike Zimmer said he's not pushing it, though, so they're trying to take it a little bit easy. But if it were torn, there's no way, at least in my opinion, my expert medical diagnosis, that I don't think he'd be able to work out if that were some kind of catastrophic injury. So it's a good sign that he's back working out, and it's only May, so he's going to have plenty of time to have that heal up for him. The Vikings have their first open organized team activity to media next Wednesday, so we'll be able to see if he's out there and at what capacity he's working out. But throughout all these workouts this summer, or excuse me, through May and June, all they're really doing is walking through things. The CBA really limits their amount of physical hits, and there's no live contact allowed, so it's really going to be difficult to judge too many injuries by that. But at the defensive end spot, that's some a place that the Vikings can ill afford major injury, with the question of depth behind them. They drafted Danielle Hunter, obviously. They've got Scott Crichton. They have a lot of question marks on guys that they're hoping can jump up and surprise them and show them something in camp and earn more of a rotation spot. But all signs point to Brian Robison being all right, which is a good thing to hear if you're a Vikings fan. I also talked to him about Mike Zimmer about the plan at guard. I thought it was pretty interesting that they were looking at Brandon Fusco on the left side. Initially, you take that and you think, well, it might have a lot to do with Matt Khalil. Mike Zimmer said it has a little bit to do with him, but a lot of it actually has to do with trying to keep T.J. Clemmings, their fourth-round pick out of Pittsburgh, a guy who played defensive end for Pittsburgh at the start of his college career and then shifted over to the offensive line to get more playing time. He's a guy that was a right tackle. They want to keep him on the right side. And in order to do that, they would feel they need to move Brandon Fusco over. And at the same time, it would probably help Matt Khalil. But with Clemmings, he's not the only guy they're looking at that right spot. They've looked at other guys as well. Tyrus Thompson, the tackle they drafted out of Oklahoma in the 6th round. So they're looking at all of the guys. They drafted 3 college tackles, but they're looking at them all at guard, which is interesting to me that they believe they can kind of make that transition on the inside. And really, you would want to put, I guess, if you want to call it a project or a player you have to work on. I don't know if you'd want to put him on the left side next to Khalil, but they're going through all their options. Moving Fusco is not a definite thing. They are still looking at David Yankee on the left side. They have moved Carter Bykowski, a tackle they got from San Francisco's practice squad last year. They have moved him to the inside to left guard as well. So they're looking at a bunch of different options right now. And Mike Zimmer said, look, it's going to be a long time before we figure this out because they're not hitting anything. We can't tell if these guys can actually block in OTAs because they're not allowed to hit anything. They're not allowed to wear pads. The mandatory mini camp, I believe they'll get pads on, but there's not going to be a lot of live contact at all there. And that's still a month away. So that leads us to the final bit we got from Mike Zimmer yesterday on just the quick updates with Adrian Peterson. Obviously, he's still on this roster. He was not traded during the draft. We don't know necessarily what's going to happen with the contract situation. Adrian has, his agent, Ben Dogra, has said that, well, I trust and I like the fact that they want to keep Adrian here, but show us the money. You know, and they want the Jerry Maguire line. And to me, it's a situation where the Vikings don't have to budge. They don't have to do anything. So really, it's up to Adrian. And Mike Zimmer said as such yesterday when I talked to him. He said, look, I think I have a good indication, Zimmer said, about when he thinks Peterson's going to show up, but ultimately it's up to him. And I would be very surprised to see Peterson show up during any kind of voluntary workout. I don't believe he'll be there during OTAs, especially if he's trying to get more money out of the team. I don't think it's going to do anything. I don't think the Vikings are going to budge just because he doesn't show up to OTAs. But if you're Adrian Peterson and Ben Dogra, you're thinking, well, we're going to try and hold out as long as we can. But at some point, push is going to come to shove. That might be the mandatory mini camp, which is June 16th to 18th. Players can be fined upwards of, I think it's $70,000, $80,000 for missing that. But the workout bonus that Peterson has tied to him, it's really just about OTAs and training camp. That's only 250 grand, and so that to me that's not going to be I don't think it's going to be a major draw for Peterson to show up. So you're going to really be watching the next point for Peterson. I think it'd be a surprise if he showed up next week to OTAs. Beyond that, it would be that June 16th to 18th mandatory minicamp or the end of July to the start of training camp when everybody's expected to report as they are with this mandatory minicamp. But Peterson would not be the first player to miss a June minicamp that is deemed mandatory. So it's really up in the air at this point. The Vikings, like they said, Mike Zimmer feels he has some kind of indication of when he's going to show up, but these conversations are fluid and we'll see what happens. I just want to thank you guys for joining me here at 1500ESPN.com. Please check back to the website for more.